If you are looking for your first camera gimbal and don't want to spend too much money, then the Cinepeer Weebill 3E could be a really good choice, and I will share my opinion in a moment. But if you are familiar with the Weebill 3S, then we could get this review done under 30 seconds. Add the 24-second shot clock, let's go. Weebill 3E is basically the same Weebill 3S with the same design and motors, but with a couple withdrawn features. It doesn't have the fill light, follow focus port, and there is no combo kit that would include the wrist rest, but it can be purchased separately. Weebill 3S costs around $319 US, while the Weebill 3E costs only $249 US. Right at the buzzer. For transparency, yes, Juin sent me this gimbal, so I have had the chance to test it for a while and I get to keep it. But they are not the sponsor of this video and the opinion shared here is my own. Plus, they don't have to see the video before it's posted. When it comes to the features, this gimbal has a bunch of them, but since I'm not a spec sheet, I will mostly focus on the ones I use and value most. First of all, I think that the Weebill 3E has a good build quality. The grip feels nice and convenient. It's built the same as the Weebill 3S was. So this gimbal also has the axis locks, which makes the balancing process and carrying easy. It has all different modes, so you can pan follow, use vortex, ports mode, and others. Other feature to point out, and this could be important for those who shoot mostly their content vertically, is that the Weebill 3E has this part that can be switched and you can attach the camera vertically. I personally rarely film vertically on a gimbal, but you will get much better results attaching the camera vertically than using the vertical mode. Another cool feature is that this gimbal supports Bluetooth shutter control with a lot of camera models, and that allows the recording button to start and stop recording. One thing I wish that this model had was a quick release plate, like it was for the Weebill 3, so every time you take the camera off and put it back on, you wouldn't have to worry about balancing the tilt axis. But I also have to admit, it is still pretty easy to balance the Weebill 3E. I only wish I didn't have to do it that often. By the way, there are links to all of 3 of these gimbals in the description. I haven't had a full day of using this gimbal, so I can't guarantee the battery will last all day, like when filming weddings and events that start early in the morning and finish late at night. But according to Juin, the battery will last more than 10 hours when in active use. I did, however, use it for a couple of hours straight at different events, and the battery level just dropped by 1 bar. So theoretically, I would assume that it could last the whole day. Plus, if necessary, you can charge the gimbal with a power bank while using it. I think it was the Crane M3 for which I tried this feature and it was useful at that time. But I wouldn't suggest leaving that option when you are almost running out of battery, because depending on how much power the gimbal consumes and how much input there is, the charging might not keep up with the consumption. Well, maybe in that particular case, it was also because I was charging the camera from the Crane M3's battery. Anyway, back to the Weebill 3E. Performance-wise, this gimbal is great. It has powerful motors, just like the ones in the Weebill 3S. For the most part now, I have used the Weebill 3E with a Sony a7 IV, a Sigma 28-70mm and f2.8 lens, and the variable ND filter. With this setup, I was able to get nice smooth footage when the lens was on 28mm and even when zoomed on 70mm when the lens extends, and I didn't rebalance the gimbal. But I guess this is not that mind-blowing, since nowadays most of the gimbal motors can compensate for that weight shift. Speaking of performance, you can help this video to perform by hitting that like button. Much appreciated. One thing that makes a difference is the wrist rest, but it's not like the gimbal will perform better with it. More like it will allow you to use the gimbal more easily. As I mentioned at the beginning, there is no combo kit for the Weebill 3E, at least not at the moment, but the wrist rest accessory is truly amazing and can be purchased separately. Ever since the Weebill 3, which was the first gimbal that had this feature, I have really enjoyed working with these gimbals. The wrist rest evens out some of the weight, plus in certain positions it takes off some of the weight from your arm and supports the wrist. And you can actually feel the difference after long filming sessions because your hands don't get tired so fast. And since it is a separate accessory, you could actually start with the gimbal itself and then grab the wrist rest later on when spare dollars roll in. Or check if somebody is selling a used one separately from the Weebill 3S in the marketplace or eBay. Because I have to say that now when I have used the wrist rest for other gimbals, the Weebill 3E without the wrist rest feels a little bit top heavy, as it should. Because the gimbal weighs only a bit more than a kilogram, while the camera setup weighs more and is attached at the top. When I started out, and even still as a videographer, I know that there are all sorts of needs gear-wise. Therefore, investments must be well thought out. And I mean, it would have been amazing to have this kind of option at the price point years ago when I was looking for my first gimbal. Yeah, that is another thing that I like about the Weebill 3E. It has all the necessary features to get you started and costs only $249 US. There are other great Weebill series gimbals out there that bring good value for the money, so make sure to watch this video next. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and I will see you in the next one. Ciao.